Hello everyone, it's Comfort Beach and welcome to another PHP episode where we're going to learn briefly about the PHP arrays. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to open up our XAMP. Okay, we start our Apache. Go to htdocs. I'm going to open my code editor. Okay, we access the admin. Okay, PHP tools. Sure. So I'm going to create another file which I'm just going to name array. Okay, which I'm going to name episode 4 arrays. I never forget the extension once again, the PHP. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is before we could get started, I would like to revise through what we did in the last episode about the PHP arrays. So let's start by defining an array, since this is a brief lesson about the PHP arrays. So uh, an array is a collection of elements or a collection of values. So we use arrays in PHP to list down the values. So the values are separated by a comma, and the value of an array depends on the data type which you'd like to insert. You can insert multiple data types in a PHP array. Yeah, that's good with the PHP array. So there are two methods of creating PHP arrays. Other one is by using the function array, and the other method is by just using the square bracket. So we're going to revise through all of them, but for these tutorial sessions, we're going to pick the square brackets approach. So let's go. Let's get started. So we start the syntax, PHP syntax. We're starting from here and up to here. Okay, a comment. I'm going to say general form. We're going to name it general form. Okay, so an array, mostly when creating an array in most of the documentations, they do use the function array. Like let's say when you're trying to come up with a collection of countries, we're going to say countries, and then with a function array, just like this, and then the values here or the elements separated by commas. Like I said, array values mostly depends on a data type. If you're dealing with a number, like if the value one was the first value of an array was a number, you could have just written like the actual number here. If the second is a combination of characters, that's a string, we could have just written Zambia. And then if the third is a boolean, you could just say true or false. Then if the other one is a string, we could just say United United Kingdom. Yeah, United Kingdom. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so now let's get back to our array. So, like I said, there are two forms of creating arrays: the general approach, which is mostly found in most of the documentations, and the other approach, which uses the square bracket. So, let's start with the general approach, and then we'll go to another approach of using the square brackets to separate. No, yeah, to where we'll be using the square brackets. Yeah, so for these sessions we'll be using the second approach, but I just want uh, to make sure that you are familiar with the general approach. Let's say countries is goes to okay countries. Okay, so there's one thing which I forgot to mention when, like, the cases that we use when we are declaring the variables, when we are giving the variables the name. So there are many cases. There's camel case, Hungarian cases, and other cases. I left the link in the description on the first episode. You can learn more about that. But for this session, I'd like to us to adopt the the camel case. So we're going to say countries is equals to, and then we use the array keyword on the function. Array, okay, array. And then here we're going to say Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. Okay, so the values are separated by a comma. So the first value here is Zambia, the second value Zimbabwe, third value Uganda, Uganda. The fourth value, let's set it up to 4 for now. South Africa, South Africa. Let's end on the fifth. We're going to talk about the United Kingdom. United Kingdom. This is the first approach of creating arrays in PHP, where we use the keyword array in a function form here. Yeah, in form of a function to be precisely. Yeah, and then we just add the values. So what you have to know about the arrays is that in array we have what we call the indexes. So this Zambia, so array index starts at 0, going up. So if you want to access Zambia here, you can use the index 0. So Zambia is at index 0, Zimbabwe 1, Uganda 2, South Africa 3, and the United Kingdom at 4. Yeah, so always remember that the indexes of arrays starts at 0, not not like in the general counting form where we start counting from 1, but the arrays, the counting always starts at 0. So now this is the first approach of creating arrays. Another approach is by using uh, saying countries is equals to, and then we just say, I'm going to replicate the initial array. We just say Zambia, Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe, Uganda, South Africa, South Africa, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. United Kingdom. So, okay, so this is the second approach here. Let me name it second approach of creating arrays. This with this approach, you don't have to use the keyword array or the function array. Here, we just have to start by stating the values directly, by just saying you in a square brackets here, you enclose all the values in a square brackets, and then we start the first value. So this is at index 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 4, up to index 4. So I'm going to get rid of the first approach, or let me just leave some space. Let's give it some space so that we only remain with the second approach. So for these whole sessions, we'll be using the second array approach. But if you feel like you're comfortable with the first approach here, which uses the keyword array, you can go with it. There's no problem. Okay, so countries, we say countries. Okay, so now let's play around with the arrays now. Like I've said, arrays always starts at 0. The count always starts at 0. So if you want to access the first element here, you could just say Zambia. Okay, so we can't just say echo countries like this. This will not work because echo expect strings. Take note of that. Whenever you're dealing with echo, it expects strings, or just to say the simple data types. Strings, the simple data types are strings, integers, floating point, booleans, and the others. But arrays and functions are not the simple data types that you can just echo out. Yeah, so let's go. Okay. Don't know why my example is shut down on its own. Okay, so episode three arrays. So you see, array to string conversion. So whenever you are dealing with the echo, always make sure that the value that you want or that you want to display are in form of a string. Yeah, in form of a string, or any simple data type. Yeah, even when you're dealing with functions, always make sure that your function returns a simple data type. Yeah, so let's get started. So now let's start playing around with the arrays, how we could use these arrays. So I'm only going to cover the important things that we can do with the arrays here. So let's start by accessing now these values. So when you want to access Zambia, we just have to say echo. Okay, let me delete this so that we could start together. You just have to say echo. Like I said, we use echo or print. We use echo and print to display the data. But for these videos, we'll be using echo, or we have adopted echo. Okay, so we're going to say countries, and then we use the scale brackets. This is called the indexing. Now you choose the index. Like I said, the first the first value here lies at index 0. The second one, up and going up. So if you want to access Zambia, you just have to say countries 0, and then it should display Zambia. So let's check from our browser here. No, what's wrong with my Apache today? Okay, so now it has displayed Zambia. So we can make a lot of manipulations here. If we want to display South Africa here, we just have to count to say uh, 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's say again 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so if we want to access South Africa, access South Africa, we could just say echo countries, and then 3, index 3. So these are the indexes. Okay, I don't know what my Apache is smoking today. So we have Zambia and South Africa. It's just my bad that we don't have spacings. I'm going to show you how we can add spacings soon. So if you want to access the last element here, you could just say uh you can just count 0, 1, 2, and then it lies at index. So it lies at index mm, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, at index 4. Yeah, so this is now indexing of the accessing of elements. So now there's also another approach. Okay, before we could go that, let's also talk about the concatenation, now how we could be able to mix up different strings. Okay, so I'm going to we simply use a dot, and then I'm going to say br, the break tag. Then I refresh, so it should give me some space here. Okay, so now we have some space. Okay, so here we can now manipulate to say index 0 is, and then here we can also so let's add a dot for concatenation. Concatenation simply means joining or connecting in programming. So here, if you want to connect a string to a variable, you could just say you add the point. So we are going to say index 3 is, let's see. Yes, it's running. Okay. Yeah, so index 0 is Zambia, index 3 is South Africa. So this is how we do access the array elements in PHP. There are many things that you can do with the arrays here. We can also count the number of elements in the arrays using the count functions. So let's say if we want to count, let's say echo the number of array elements are. Okay, so we use the count to count the number of array elements. Okay, and then you say count. The count is a function, and then we're going to say we pass in the variables, the array variables, countries. Okay, don't know why my XMP is stopping. Okay, let me add a break here. So I concatenate. I say br. Okay, so the number of array elements are five. So if we count down in a human form, we say one, two, three, four, five. So these elements are five. One, two, three, four. So yeah, the number of elements are five. So don't confuse these two, array counting and array indexing. So array counting does count the number of elements in a general counting manner. So when we say array count, we could just say one, two, three, four, five. But when we say array indexing, that's where we start from zero going up to say zero, one, two, three, four. Yeah, so that's array indexing. Don't confuse the two. Yeah, so this is how we do count the number of elements in an array. We just simply use the count function. So we can do a lot of things with the arrays with arrays. Okay, so this is just a basic array. So now arrays are in two forms. This is mostly known as the basic arrays. Now there's what we call named arrays, the more advanced version of arrays. So what I'm going to do here is so that we don't confuse the code our codings here. I'm going to comment down these so that I could show you guys how we play around with the named arrays. Okay, so now guys, if you notice what you are from doing here, to access the indexes we're using sorry, to access the elements we're using the indexes here. Like if we want to access Zamba, we're using the index zero. So now, have you ever, let's say in a scenario whereby you don't want to be using zero, three, and the likes to access the values in the arrays. So what do we do? That's where we bring in the named arrays instead of using zero to access the elements. That could be hard to guess for the value. Yeah, sure, that could be so hard to guess for the value when we're using the numbers, since as humans we easily get adopted to words or letters rather than the numbers. Yeah, I'm not saying all the humans, but as the majority. Okay, so now let's say we now don't want to be using the indexes to access the elements. What do we do? Yep, we that's where the named arrays comes in. They come in to be precisely. So let's say we have a collection of country with the capital cities. Like if we want to access the capital city of a certain country in the index there, we need to pass in the name of the country, and then it brings in the capital city. So now that's where the named arrays come in. So if we're using these basic arrays to say what's the capital city of Zambia, we need to use these numbers from zero depending on the number of elements we have there. Yeah, so now let's see how we could use the named arrays. So okay, let's say we have a collection of of arrays with that have the country that have the capital cities. Yeah, a collection of arrays with the capital cities. So we don't want to be using those numbers like the index is zero. No, we just want, if we say, okay, what's the capital city of Zambia? There in the index. Like for instance, if we say countries, we say Zambia. We say Zambia. It brings in the capital city of Zambia here, rather than just putting in zero and then it brings the capital city of Zambia. So now let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to declare a variable which I'm going to name country capitals. Are not spaces and variable names, like I said in the previous episode. We're going to say is equals to, and then the first value we are going to say, okay, what's the capital city of Zambia? Okay, so when you're dealing with the named arrays, take note of the data types here. So if you think like the index is a number or a boolean, please just put it just never use the quotes, just put it the way it stands. Or the value is in if the value is in is an integer, please never use the quotes, just put it the way it stands. So for instance here, most of the things that we'll be dealing with will be in strings, some will be using double quotes. So let's say what's the capital C when we say the index of Zambia is, when we say Zambia, what's the capital city of Zambia? The capital city of Zambia is Lusaka. The capital city of Tanzania, Tanzania is Dar es Salaam, if I'm not mistaken. Dar es Salaam, Dar es Salaam. So all of these are all separated by a comma. So the index and the value, the index and then the value. So this arrow here represents the value. So if you want to access Dar es Salaam, you need to use the Tanzania index. Okay. USA, we say the value is New York, if I'm not mistaken, New York. Uh, SA for South Africa. Nigeria, Nigeria. Let's say Abuja, Abuja. Let's end from here. So now let me explain about these once again. So these work like this. Instead, in the normal form when you're dealing with those general arrays, what it means here, mostly they do come like here where there's Zambia, they do come like zero. Here where is Tanzania, one, and going up. But we don't want to use that approach. We just want to make those indexes the named. We don't want to be guessing to say what's on number 2 or 3 or what, or index whatever. So here, if we want to access the capital city of Zambia here, which is Lusaka, we need to pass in on the index Zambia. If we want to access Dar es Salaam, we need to pass in Tanzania. If you want to access if you want to access New York, you need to pass in USA. If you want to access Abuja, you need to pass in Nigeria in the index. So this is what we mean when we say named indexes. Here at first, if we do compare these two arrays had no indexes. They were just coming like this. So which means the named index for Zambia here on these general arrays is 0. Here Zimbabwe 1, and for the United Kingdom is 4. But we don't want to be using those numbers, those unknown values that start from 0. We just want to use something of our own. That's where the named indexes come in. So here, if we want to access Lusaka, we need to make use of Zambia. So now let's go back to the echo which is the display. So now if we want to access Lusaka here, we're just going to say country is capital, which is the variable here, and then here. Okay, so if this index was a digit like this, we could have just written 4 since it's an integer. But since that this is a string, here in the index we are going to pass in a string Zambia. And then I'm going to add a dot. We use a dot to concatenate, and then I'm going to put the brackets and then a break, the actual break in HTML, which is going to bring us a new line. If we add this, this code is going to give us a new line. Okay, so let's refresh. For Zambia should bring Lusaka. Okay, my XMP, it seems like it's misbehaving. Okay, so we have Lusaka, which is accurate. So if we want to access New York, we just have to pass in okay, so let's say the capital city of Zambia is, then you say it like this. The capital city of Zambia is, and then you say you bring in this variable, the array name, and then what you want to access from it. Okay. Secondly, we go to echo the capital city of the United States of America. America is, you concatenate a point. So whenever you're bringing in a variable, you need to, whenever you want to concatenate a string to a variable, you need to make sure that you bring in a point, a dot to be specific, and then you say uh, country's capital, and then the index of what you want to access. So here we want to access New York. So New York over here. Let me zoom it a bit. Oh no, it's now over zoomed. So now I want to access New York. So we are going to use USA. Yeah. And then lastly, uh, the capital. Okay, let's also add a break here. So we add a dot, BR for break. The capital city of uh, Tanzania is, okay. Say country's capital, and then we say what you want to access. Want to access the capital city of Tanzania, so we say Tanzania. We should uh, bring us Dar es Salaam, if I've spelled it correctly. And sorry about my spellings. I'm I'm not sure if they're 100% accurate. Okay, so the capital city of Zambia is Lusaka. The capital city of the United States of America is New York. The capital city of Tanzania is Dar es Salaam. Yeah, very accurate. So this is how we use the named arrays that are more advanced than the simple arrays. The named arrays, we mostly use them to replace those indexes instead of using the zeros to access the first element, one to access the second, two to access the third. We could just replace all those numbers with whatever we'd think of, but they should be meaningful. Yeah. So that's all I had for for this episode about the PHP arrays. And thank you guys for following me up. And it would be better if you click on the subscribe button, and also click on that bell so that you're always updated with the future tutorials and sessions. And don't forget to invite your friends and family who may be interested in these free lessons. And my name is Comfort Beach Ambesh. Thank you.